news of the day has been trying to figure out who is going to be the next mayor of the Joburg Metro. And I believe that we do have news. And to tell us more about how the voting went, we're now joined by political reporter Natasha Phiri. Natasha, Johannesburg has a mayor.
I came for her, and then everybody just came.
Well, very good evening to you, Peter, once again, and of course to our SABC viewers. If you've just joined us now, Dr. Mpho Phalatse is the new Johannesburg mayor. Of course, she makes a comeback, as in 2016 she was elected as the MEC of Health within the city of Johannesburg. And of course, she speaks to us on SABC News first. Mpho, when waking up in the morning, did you ever anticipate that you would be elected as the mayor?
Not at all. I mean, Natasha, if you looked at the numbers, we had 71 votes of 270. We needed a majority vote to get this position. So I didn't think it was going to happen. I don't know how it was going to happen, but I can only praise God. He's really been faithful and he's come through. It's a miracle.
How are you feeling right now? Has it kicked in? I mean, everybody's calling you. Everybody wants a piece of you on the floor.
You grabbed me quite early. I think I'm still processing. You know, yes, I believe it's happened, but I think I am still processing my emotions. I'll be more settled tomorrow morning. I'm very excited. I think it signals a new dispensation for the city of Johannesburg, but also a new dispensation for politics. If you look at what happened here today, we didn't have any coalition agreements in place, and we got more than double the number of votes that we had that put me in office. So that's telling. It says that there has been a maturity of our democracy and that we're moving in the positive direction as a country and certainly as a city.
And you've made history in the city of Johannesburg.
Yes, I'm quite honored to be the first female mayor of Johannesburg. It's a huge honor. I don't take it for granted. Joburg is the economic hub of South Africa and in many ways of the continent. To be trusted with such a mammoth task as a female is really saying to a lot of women out there that you can do it, you can be trusted too, and you're not the other, you're good enough. And I hope that I will be a trailblazer for many more women coming after me who also put their hand up for all sorts of things.
Mayor Phalatse, I mean, I know you were having dinner before, you know, the results were announced, and we were just speaking to the Action SA leader, Mr. Mashaba. Clearly, he's not really happy, you know, with what the DA actually did to him, and he's been saying that actually he did everything he could because he promised his voters that he would get the ANC out of power. But when it comes to the DA, it seems as if Action SA and the DA do not have any coalitions actually.
Well, I actually have not spoken to Mr. Mashaba. You know, our national leadership was handling all coalition negotiations. Hopefully, I will still get a chance to chat to him. I'm not sure how he's feeling right now. I do believe that they may have supported my mayorship if you look at the numbers. So, yeah, but it will be interesting to have a conversation and see what kind of space he's in.
I know you haven't spoken to Ms. yet, but I mean, the EFF supporting Action SA means that the EFF actually got into the back door. How will you then maneuver that relationship between the DA and the EFF, seeing that in times past in the city of Johannesburg, relations have been soured between the two parties?
So we entered into this council meeting without any coalition agreements in place. And as it stands right now, there's still no coalition agreements in place. People voted as individuals, they voted as political parties, and we had absolutely no control as to how people choose to vote. As to what that will translate into, every promise that we made to the voters about pandering to other political parties and seeing voters in a position where they're compromised or some of our constituents taken care of. We stand by every word that we promised our voters throughout the election campaign. What we will be focusing on is service delivery for all constituents of the city. The DA believes in fairness. We believe in equal opportunity for all. Therefore, we will be serving all residents of Johannesburg, whether they are constituencies or not. A balanced approach, and we will be working with all political parties to make sure there's service delivery across the board, whether we have ward councillors in place or not.
I note the fact that you're saying that you're going to serve all residents of Johannesburg, whether they're DA members or not. I know it's still too early to actually talk about your leadership, but I mean, what can you do better than the previous mayors that we've seen, specifically the likes of Mr. Mashaba, who was under the DA ban in 2016?
Well, I mean, I've spoken greatly about what I did not agree with Mr. Mashaba on. I spoke about it a lot throughout the campaign. Right now, I'd really like to build this council. I think electioneering is over now. We need to really unite all the 270 councillors in this council behind the vision of giving the residents of Johannesburg a better city to live in. I'd like to hold hands with all political leadership, with all the councillors for our residents, and I believe that's what our residents want to see as well.
So were you willing to put your political differences aside for the sake of the voter?
Definitely, that's what it's about. Our city is broken and needs to be fixed, and that's what everybody should be focusing on right now.
Dr. Mpho, thank you so much. Of course, we will catch up with you hopefully tomorrow on Morning Live. But of course, you've heard it here first on SABC News. Dr. Mpho Phalatse, the newly elected mayor of the city of Johannesburg. Of course, she served as the MMC of Health before within the city of Johannesburg, and now she's come back as the city's number one, also making history within the city of Johannesburg, being the first female, correct me if I'm wrong, to be the newly elected mayor. Of course, Peter, she is elated. Just waking up in the morning, she didn't think that this would be the outcomes at this time. But of course, in her words, she says that she'd like to put all political differences aside and of course put the voter, put the citizens of Johannesburg first, whether they are DA members or not. Well, you've heard it first here on SABC News. So it's back to you in studio, Peter.
Natasha, before you go, on Sunday, everyone thought that this thing had collapsed. And it looks as if this might have been a gamble that Steenhuisen took and it paid off. Tell me what happened today. How did the DA's mayoral candidate end up being mayor?
Well, Peter, just earlier on, before we went to break for dinner, we had that press briefing by Mr. Herman Mashaba. Of course, not so happy with what the DA had did by fielding Dr. Mpho Phalatse as the mayoral candidate. But remember, after the elections, Mr. Herman Mashaba had said that his one common goal was to actually unseat the ANC government in all municipalities. And he had said in his own words that he chose South Africa first above everything else. So he actually got into an agreement with the EFF and they actually voted for Dr. Mpho Phalatse. But as to them having a coalition with the DA, he says that will not happen. The DA instead needs to approach them, to chart actually a way forward. But Mr. Herman Mashaba confirming that earlier on to members of the media, and it seems as if actually Action SA and the EFF had the upper hand here, in regards to voting Dr. Phalatse into power earlier on, Peter, as they said that their main goal, of which they have achieved, is to actually unseat the ANC government. So we've just heard news that, like we said earlier on, Peter, Dr. Mpho Phalatse is your new mayor. Of course, the ANC caucus was hoping that Mr. Mpho Marani, who's a former, who had a short stint rather as a Johannesburg mayor, was a former MMC of finance in the city, would be coming back, but that was not the case.
All right, so Natasha, it does seem that perhaps this is only one step and that the real work actually is only going to start now, because you can sit as mayor, but if you haven't got votes to pass budgets, it becomes impossible to do your job anyway, even though you might be mayor. So it is a victory, but there's still so much work to be done, even just to pass a budget, as I was saying.
Definitely, Peter, and that's why Dr. Phalatse was basically saying that her main and priority here is to bring all political parties within council, try to get them to work together. She said that she wants to hold hands with them, try to get them to work together for the greater good and for the benefit of the citizens of Johannesburg. She'd like to do away, with the wrangling that we've most of the oftentimes seen in council. She wants to get everybody, together. She wants to put aside political differences and actually work for the greater good of the citizens of Johannesburg. And of course, this is what she aims to do. She also wants to put service delivery as her top priority and getting the ground working in this regard, as providing services to everybody, to every citizen in the city of Johannesburg, whether you're a DA member and whether you're not a DA member. So indeed, she probably has a mammoth task ahead of her, but I guess time will only tell, Peter, in this regard.
Natasha, it sounds like It's not a coalition, but in real terms, actually, it's a coalition against the ANC. That despite their differences, the one thing they had in common is that they really just don't like this party.
Definitely, Peter. I think their one main goal was to actually unseat, the ANC, and that was the goal of the multi-party, governments or coalitions at that time, as you would say. The DA, the likes of the ACDP, Action SA, Good Party, COPE, beg your pardon. I think, those are the parties that actually formed, that multi-party national, coalition. And I think their one goal, their main aim, was to actually unseat the ANC. And it seems as if all these parties have reached that general consensus. The EFF as well, I mean, we've heard in times past last week when the CIC had said that they will hurt or they will hit the ANC, would actually hurt most. And of course, they've done this in a surprise move. That's quite evident in what you've seen in Ekurhuleni and here in the city of Johannesburg. It remains to be seen what will actually happen tomorrow in the city of Tshwane. But it's also quite interesting to note that the EFF has now a mayoral chain in the Metsimaholo municipality. And remember, Peter, this is a stronghold of the EFF. I remember personally, I went to go cover the EFF leader, Mr. Julius Malema, within one of the Metsimaholo municipalities, a stronghold of the EFF in the Free State that goes actually by the name of Moydry. And within that area, you have a place that is infamously known as Jujuville and yields power for the EFF. So, I mean, this also speaks to that as well. So I think the proof is in the pudding, Peter, as to will she actually hit the ground running from this day forth.
All right, one final question perhaps. Just remind our viewers what else happened today. A speaker was also announced.
Well, definitely, Mr. Vasco de Gama also made a comeback to the city of Johannesburg as the speaker, of course, under the DA banner. It's not his first time when he was elected as speaker. In 2016, we saw the same as well. And currently, what's currently happening right now, we're going to see the nominations and the voting of the chief whip of council. I'm reliably told that it will be between Ms. Loyiso Masuku of the ANC and Mr. Shandu of the DA. And once, the program, once that person will be announced, the program of today will be concluded. What is next is for Dr. Phalatse to actually sit down with the team and elect her mayoral committee members, those are the MMCs, and whether or not, those various MMCs will comprise of members of the multi-party coalition government, it also remains to be seen. But indeed, she has a mammoth task ahead of her.
Natasha, thanks very much indeed, and we hope perhaps to get more news from you a little bit later on, but great reporting all day. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. All right, that's our political reporter Natasha Phiri joining us there from the city of Johannesburg. And there is a new mayor, Dr. Mpho Phalatse, who's the DA's mayoral candidate. And there was thinking that everything had gone to pot on Sunday with the DA's decision to backtrack on a coalition agreement that had been agreed just days before. But it looks as if maybe the gamble paid off. However, all that's happened is that there's a mayor in place. The business of running the city will require cooperation and require votes from other people. So we wait to see how in the coming days and weeks that will play out, because